Okay, so today we're going to go into the workbook and we'll be focusing on looking at the characteristics of consonant sounds, characteristics of vowel sounds, and then I'm going to introduce the different symbols for both consonants and vowels, so kind of have a general idea what we're working with. If you have note cards, this is a great day to start using them. If you want to take some notes, instead of having to write things down twice, if you have your note cards, especially when we get to the symbols, you can have a stack and there's maybe 15 or 20 symbols you need to know for consonant sounds. There's another 15 or so you need to learn for vowel sounds. So that's kind of where we're going. Okay, first of all, let's take a look in the workbook. I clicked on the syllabus. And for some reason, some people have trouble with that. Send me an email. I'll send you if you need a PDF or a Word version of it by email, I can do that. Okay, so I'm looking at the workbook. I'm going to click where it says phonetics right here. This is where we are right now. Now, most of us, I mean, we know how to speak, right? But we don't necessarily know what we do when we speak. And that's kind of what we'll be talking about a little bit here. So in the beginning, let's take a look at some key terms here. Linguistic sign, arbitrariness, you can see that, phonetics. And in this course, we'll be focusing more on this area right here, where it says articulatory phonetics, a study of the production of speech sounds. That's where we will be focusing on more. Okay, let's keep going. So it says, when describing a consonant, there are three aspects of the articulation of the consonant. There's kind of three things that we will worry about. And number one is a sound voiced or voiceless? So if you look at the examples here, right, let's take a look at set A first. How about Beatrice? Can you do me a favor and this one I need to throw it out. This one really doesn't fit in this area, but Beatrice, can you go ahead and read set A, read all of those words there, beginning with pit.
Okay, pit, figure, wrath, mat, packs, wash, watch, pack, and height.
Good. Now, if we talk about sounds being either voiced or voiceless, it means the state of the glottis. Inside our throats here, we have vocal folds. Those vocal folds can be held open and apart, in which case there's no vibration when we produce a sound, or those vocal folds can be held loosely together, which creates a vibrating sound. So anybody here, if you look at set A, would you look at these as being voiced or voiceless consonant sounds?
They're voiceless.
Exactly. That is exactly what they are right there. So we will say that set A represents voiceless consonant sounds. That's one of the first things that we do when we look at a language. We'll separate the sounds into those two categories. Okay, so if we know what set A is, we certainly know what set B is, right? These exemplify voice consonant sounds. Alyssa, can you go ahead and read those examples beginning with the word bit? Go ahead and read those words.
Watch, those.
Those. Yeah, your sound's not that great. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Jose, you want to give it a shot? Yeah, we couldn't hear you very well. Jose, how's your audio? Go ahead and see if you can read the words in set B there.
Okay, so the first word is bit, match, watch, pot, dose, damp, zoo, wa.
Right, so in all those examples, we're dealing with what's called voice consonant sounds. So that's the first thing. That's step number one. Which sounds in the language are voiced and which ones are voiceless? And there we go. So let's go to number two. The second thing is the next characteristic of a consonant sound is, where is the air stream constricted? Where is it? Is it in the lips? Is it inside the mouth somewhere? what's going on? Where is that narrowing of the vocal tract, right? So let's take a look at some examples here, see if we can figure it out. Okay, how about Paulina? Can you hear me okay? Mendez, can you unmute for just a second?
Yes.
Okay, can you just read these words in the circle here and let's see what we can say about them.
Okay. So people, basket, come, world.
So notice you have, you see this? People, people. You have come, basket, world. So do you see when I say all those sounds? The lips are coming together, right? In every one of those examples. So these, it says, where is the airstream? We say the lips. We call these bilabial consonants. These are considered bilabial consonants because the constriction of the airstream, it occurs with the lips, right? So the lips are closed, air is forced up through the trachea into the oral cavity, and then the lips are open and we form these sounds. So all of these sounds are common. They're similar in terms of where the constriction occurs in the airstream. So that's a second characteristic of consonant sounds. And then number 3 is how. How is the airstream constricted, right? So how do we do it? If you have like a K, like kit, key. If you say cope, cope, right? So it looks like the tongue kind of bunches up and it touches the roof of the mouth behind the palate, the velum area of the mouth. It's that area when you have a cold, it gets real sticky. Crap, Biden's talking to the nation right now. I got to turn off the TV. I'm getting distracted. I just turned it off. But you know, the velar area in the palate, right? That's where you, if you have a cold, you can feel the mucus coming. So it looks like with velar consonants, like the K and the G, the tongue bunches up and it touches the velar area behind the palate. That's kind of where you have, or how it's constricted. So the tongue bunches up, the air is kind of forced out, and we produce that sound. So those are the 3 basic things that you want to understand is number 1, what is the state of the glottis with a consonant sound? And that helps us understand whether the sound is voiced or voiceless. Number 2, where is the airstream constricted? 3, how is the airstream constricted? Now, I posted some videos in Canvas that go over these things in a little bit more detail. You can watch those on your own time. Now, I think I should probably, yeah, I didn't give you a good definition of this. Let me go over this one more time. Okay, so phones are speech sounds. It's weird, but we even have a definition for a consonant, right? And you have to think about, okay, here are consonants over here. Here are vowel sounds over there. How are these different? So notice consonant sounds are speech sounds produced with a narrowing somewhere in the vocal tract, right? There has to be some type of constriction going on. That's the definition of a consonant. So think about that for a minute as we talk about consonant sounds. Now, on the other hand, if I give a definition of vowels, we have to contrast that. Vowels have a relatively open vocal tract, right? I could ask you, these are the kinds of things you'll be asked in linguistics, right? This kind of stuff will drive you crazy. I'll say how are consonant and vowel sounds different? Give examples in each to prove your point or something. So you would say, well, first of all, consonant sounds are produced with some narrowing in the vocal tract. For example, the P and the B sounds, both bilabial consonants, they're produced after the lips come together and then the sound is forced out. So that's where the narrowing or constriction of the vocal tract is. You say, on the other hand, and then you'll say something like this. Vowels. The most intense audible sounds in speech, vowels are produced with a relatively open, and more open vocal tract. Vowels typically function as syllabi nuclei, and the consonants that surround them depend on the vowel for audibility. So we can demonstrate that through looking at some words here. If you can determine the number of syllables in the word, you can also determine the number of vowels in that word. Now, if you know the number of vowels in the word, that makes it much easier for you when I ask you to transcribe words on quizzes and tests. So if I say the word, if I say give, that's one syllable, right? Give, right? And give is one syllable. So you have one vowel sound and you transcribe it something like that. It's very easy. So you know you're looking for one vowel. How about, I'm going to keep going. You guys got your, this is good. You got videos on. This is fantastic. Not everybody does, but I like that. That's good. Sandra, can you do me a favor? Can you go ahead and take a look? I want you to read these words out loud there. And we want to determine the number of syllables in each word as we go. Okay, Sandra. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Perfect.
First one, automobile.
Okay, let's look at that. So automobile, how many syllables there? You guys get this? Right? How about this? Can somebody figure this out? You probably know this from the last semester. If you want to put the number of syllables in the blanks provided, go right ahead if you know how to annotate. Okay, keep going, Sandra. See if somebody can figure that one out. So if you want, you can write right next to each word how many syllables you think you hear, if somebody wants to do that. Okay, keep going, Sandra.
Television, fan, hurricane, assault, astonish, weather, senator, and reach.
Good. So television, how many of you guys hear?
4.
We got television, right? You guys get that? How about the word fan? How many syllables?
Yeah.
1.
Hurricane. Hurricane. Good. Assault.
2.
Astonish.
3.
3.
Weather.
2.
2.
Good. Weather, right? Senator.
3.
3.
Reach.
1.
Just 1.
Good. Now, what if I said reaching?
2.
2.
2.
What if I say reached? I reached for something.
It's 1.
1.
Still 1, right? Still 1. So the key here is we can determine the number of syllables in a word by the number of vowels that we hear, because the vowel comprises the heart of the syllable. That's the nucleus of the syllable. That's my point there. There are 4 ways in which a speaker may change the vocal tract, thus influencing vowel quality. Vowels have the following characteristics. Now, an easy way to remember this, if you have trouble remembering things, I'll try to give you a tip on this. So there's 4 different characteristics of vowel sounds, right? So I'm going to say 3. How do I say this? Maybe make it in I need to annotate this. Okay, so 3 involve the tongue and 1 involves the lips. Put that in your notes. So then if I ask you to describe the 4 characteristics of vowel sounds, at least you know there's 3 things that happen with the tongue, and then 1 thing happens with the lips. And those 4 things is basically how we produce vowels in the vocal tract. So let's take a look at what's happening with the tongue. Number 1, raising or lowering the body of the tongue. So read out loud, Brisa Aguilera. Can you go ahead and read these words here in parentheses here?
Okay. Meeting, weather, make, match, hit.
Right. So let me try. Here. Yeah. Notice if I put my pen in my mouth, I can't do this at school. And you know what? Even at school, I teach 3110 in the class. Sometimes I take my mask down to show them the sounds. It's hard. I do that and put my mask back up, but we don't have to worry about it here. But watch this. If you put your tongue or if you put a pin on your tongue or a lollipop or something on your tongue, weather, may, ma, hit, right? All those are produced when the tongue is high. So we call these high vowels. All of these typically the tongue is kind of it's the height of the tongue is closer to the roof of the mouth when we produce those sounds. Some sounds are produced when the tongue is lower in the mouth, right? So we have raising or lowering the body of the tongue. That's one thing that determines the vowel quality. Number two, advancing or retracting the body of the tongue. So is the tongue moving more toward the front, right behind the teeth, or is the tongue moving back and bunching up and going toward the back of the mouth? That also affects the vowel quality. So how about Nicole, you want to do me a favor? Read these right here. Again, if you need to, you can put a pen on your tongue, and you can kind of feel where it is. Okay, Nicole, go ahead.
Boot, book, cot, father, and boat.
Good. So ah, oh, right? In all these cases, you think the tongue's toward the front of the mouth or is it retracting more toward the back of the mouth when we produce these sounds?
The back.
Back.
That's it. So you probably wouldn't be surprised if you go to your vowel chart, you'll see it. I posted how to understand the vowel and the consonant chart. You can look at those for homework, YouTube videos I put in the modules, but these are called back vowels. We have back vowels, we have front vowels, we have high vowels, we have mid vowels, and so on. Number three, the next characteristic, it's called rounding or not rounding the lips. That also seems to have a pretty big effect on vowel quality. So let's take a look at some examples in set A and also set B. How about Nico? What's going on, buddy? Can you read the words in set A first?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
All right. So wrong, blue, cook, coat,
Good. Perfect.
among. Oh, okay.
No, you can keep going. Go ahead. Do set B.
Among, bait, measure, and laugh.
Perfect. You got it. So now my question is, which of these vowel sounds, anybody can jump in here, which of these vowel sounds, they include rounding of the lips when we produce those sounds? Which set is that? Set A or set B?
Is it set A?
That's it. Wrong. Blue. Ooh. Cook. Coat. In every single case in set A, there's rounding of the lips, but with set B, there's not. So that's characteristic number three. Whether the lips are rounded or not, that also has a very big effect on the vowel quality. And then finally, we have our last one. So do you remember why I told you? I said, remember with the four characteristics of vowels, I said three of them involve the tongue. One of them involves rounding of the lips. There you go, right there. So number four, again, involves the tongue. So is the tongue, how do we describe the tongue? Is it hard or is it soft when we produce that? So if it's harder, we say that the movements or the vowel is made with a tense gesture. If the tongue is more relaxed, it's made with a lax gesture. And that, believe it or not, it separates certain vowel sounds. And again, this is what I want to illustrate here. Aubriana, can you do me, can you unmute for a second?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Can you go ahead and take a look at set A here? Read those words first.
Okay. Sit, get, a lot, look, and gather.
Good. And then try set B.
Heat, cake, cool, and loathe.
Okay, now it's kind of hard to pay attention to this stuff, but if you feel your tongue and you say eat, cake, cool, ooh, really hard, loathe. In every case in set B, the tongue is kind of pointed and it's harder when we produce those sounds. But when we go sit, it, get, a lot, look, gather. In those cases, when you say the sounds and feel your tongue, you feel that it's actually lax, it's soft. So that's number 4. So to review, you have to think of the tongue. Is it high? Is it low? Is it moving toward the front of the mouth or more toward the back of the mouth? Is the tongue soft or hard? Or are we rounding or not rounding the lips? And that is what we call the basic characteristics of both consonant and vowel sounds. Now, what you can do is for really intense, you want some intense background reading, go to language files into the phonetics section, and you can read in more depth about everything I'm talking about here. Now, you can get a little deeper than what I'm talking about here by watching some of the YouTube videos I posted under the modules for this week. And that's where we want to go right now. So let's start off with consonant sounds. The good news is many of the symbols for the International Phonetics Alphabet, you will already know. You know them already. There's a few of them you will not know. So you have a lot to work with that you already know. So that's a good thing. Okay, let me share my screen and go into, make sure I'm sharing the video. I am. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about, not 26, let's go to the one, okay, consonant sound symbols. Let's do this one first. The videos are usually short. 9 or 10 minutes is pretty long for these videos. Hello, welcome to forget that. We've been there, done that. IPA consonant
Okay, here we go.
sounds. The easy ones. To start with the basic ones, very easy ones first. P, put, speak, hiccup, application. So I also put things like GH in there. I'll put something in there that's unusual. The actual spelling doesn't match the sound. So we have a lot of unusual spelling patterns in English because we've had so much impact from so many languages historically. I think France conquered England for 200 years. French was spoken in England for a long time. And then once they kicked the French out, English was still there. It survived. It really had a huge influence from French. B, break, build, ramble, bubble. Right, so there's nothing surprising about the spelling patterns and the B here. They're pretty predictable. T, tug, mat, stuck, pterodactyl, washed. So this one is a little tricky. The tricky one is washed, right? It ends in ED. It looks like a D, but it isn't. I said washed. So it's actually the ED sometimes sounds like a T. We'll talk more about this in phonology when we get into assimilation patterns. D, do, lard. This is pretty predictable. Dreary, grabbed, handed. K. And I don't know why I just did that. This one's not as predictable.
Can I ask, what's the difference between the D in the washed sound and the D in like the pushed sound? Or grabbed, thank you.
Okay, give me a quick second. Okay, what's your question again?
So I'm not hearing the differences in these two sounds. So I'm kind of wondering like what's the difference between like the D sound in washed versus like the D sound in grabbed?
There's no D sound in washed. You said washed. You didn't say washed, right? You said washed. There's no D sound in it, period. You know what I'm saying? If you say
No.
grab, well, we'll say it again. Say W-A-S-H-E-D. Go ahead, say it.
Washed.
Again?
Washed.
You're putting a T at the end.
Okay.
You're putting a T. You said washed. Try to say it this way. Say washed. Say that.
Washed.
No. I said say washed, washed.
Washed.
See, you still can't do it. So you can't even put a D in there when I'm trying to get you to do it because it doesn't sound right. So you are saying a T. Now, if you say grabbed, grabbed is definitely a D, right?
Like I said, I don't hear the difference,
Hey,
which is why I asked, but it's
but
okay. Go on.
you're saying the difference. You're saying it. You didn't say wash. You didn't say washed. You said washed, right? If you say grabbed, you're not saying grabbed. You're saying grabbed or washed, washed, right there.
This might just be like an acquired, thing, because I've got people messaging me and they're saying that they don't hear it. Like they're with me. They have trouble differentiating the same thing. So it's okay. Go on.
Okay, all right.
Professor,
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
does the difference washed versus grabbed, does that have to do with the vocal tract's ability to open at a certain speed? So like when you start with a buh sound, it's easier to do the duh.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's exactly it. It's called assimilation. Assimilation is the process how one sound becomes more like another sound in terms of some phonetic feature because they occur in similar environments. That's exactly what that is.
Is
I
it
mean,
also another way of like how we say reason instead of it's spelled with an S, but we pronounce it more with a Z instead of an
yes,
S?
in that case, you have two vowels on both sides of the S, and vowels are always voiced. They're always voiced sounds. So the two vowels make the S sound more like a Z because of assimilation. But to go back to what you guys are saying, right? If I say wash, this is how I write it phonetically. I write wash, washed, washed. If I say grabbed, I'm going to write this one more like grab, and then I'll put a D here. I'll say grabbed, or I'll say washed right there. So I think whoever said it exactly. It really depends on what sounds occur either before or after other sounds, and those sounds tend to influence the other sounds, so they become alike in some way. Now, the K is a little confusing because it involves a lot of different spelling patterns. You can see the K, you can see the S, you can see the CH, the C, and even the X. Hijo de la. But it is. Do you guys hear it? Expect. Do you guys hear that K in there? It's hard to pay attention to it, but do you guys hear that? I didn't say
Slow it down.
I didn't say expect. I said expect. Expect. So that E kind of epsilon EKS. So expect. So the K can be very confusing because you have all of these different spelling patterns. G. Go, lag, linger, designate, Pittsburgh, F. And any of you guys, if you go back to listen to the video, you can listen to the student when she does say the word washed, you can hear the T at the end there. It's definitely not a D. Replay the video and listen to that part. You'll hear it. Face, laugh, philanderer, cafe, and myth. This one's a little tricky because you have that PH in there. The GH makes it a little bit hard, the spelling patterns. V, vain. This is very easy. Love. There's no unusual bevel, spelling patterns. Average. This one. S, soak, psychiatry, lax, lace, extract. The only one that's going to throw you off here is probably the X, but it is extract. So the X sound, in many cases, it represents a K and an S. So it's a consonant cluster. It's what it is. Now, if X is in the beginning of the word, it's typically a Z, like xenophobia, that kind of a thing.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Z. Go right ahead.
So I noticed that you underlined the the letters which it applies to. And I noticed in some of the videos, like it doesn't have the beginning two characters. Like for psychiatry, even though the P and the S does the S sound, you only underline the S. Is there a particular reason for that, or is it just how you created the video? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just trying to show you some of what the spelling patterns, what they represent. Like the PH sometimes represents an F sound, but then if you have like an M and an N, I'm only going to underline the N because it's more, I guess you could say it's a consonant cluster, but the M is a silent sound. If that makes any sense.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay. Zoo, learns, misses, Xerox. And you got the word reason there, but did you get the Xerox? That one. M, Mary, bomb, smear, amnesty, Amsterdam. These are just basic. These are pretty easy. No, all the sounds you know, right? It's just the spelling patterns. No, throw you off. Sin, snake, mnemonic. So you'll see some unusual spelling patterns, especially with the M and the N there. L, leave, real, Larry. Very straightforward sound here in its spelling. Apply. W, win, swamp, quiet, twirl, rowing. I probably should have put this one in there to at least show it to you, but do you guys hear in this word? Do you guys get the KW here? If I transcribe it, it would look something like this, quick. So the QU can be represented as a K and a W. Okay, so that's what we call the basic sounds. These are pretty easy. The symbols are easy, but the spelling patterns are still going to throw you off. Now, what happens with children is it's the reverse of what's happening with you guys right now. With children, they see the spelling patterns, but they're not sure how to pronounce them. They don't know what to do with them. And they'll tend to pronounce things phonetically initially. Then eventually they'll get used to the CH as a K, right? So it takes them a little bit of time to get used to all those things. Okay, here's the more difficult sounds now, the symbols that you're not used to. More IPA consonant sounds. Most of these are difficult. You'll need to practice these more. The glottal stop. Uh-oh. Mountain. Gluttony. Catwoman. Now, I got an email from somebody from one of the 3110 sections. And she's like, well, I don't use the glottal stop. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Transcribe it how you speak it. If you say mountain, if you say gluttony, if you say cat woman, if you say hat rack, then you don't use the glottal stop. If you say mountain, gluttony, cat woman, and hat rack, then you are using the glottal stop. So, and I understand that we all don't speak exactly the same, and we have differences sometimes even with basic vowel sounds, and that's fine. So when you get on a test, transcribe it how you would say it, right? If it's logical and it makes sense, I'll give you credit for it. If you have any questions on a test or a quiz, you can always come by my office and we can talk. I have no problems with that. You can come by and say, hey, you took off some points here. This is how I actually say it. This is what I do. I'll have you speak it and say it. And if that's the case, then that's the case. And we do have different dialects. We have many dialects of American English.
I have a quick question.
The theta. Yes, go right ahead.
Can you give an example of how you would, I guess, transcribe one of the glottal stop words that you were showing?
Yes. Let me see. It's pretty freaky. if you had ow, mountain, man, whoa. No, it would be I'm sorry, the glottal stop is kind of like a question mark. So it would be no, mountain, maybe. And then the syllabic mountain. So if you transcribe mountain, it might be something like the M, then the diphthong AW, then the N, then the glottal stop, and the syllabic N. Something like that. Mountain. Okay.
So for like uh-oh, it would just be like uh-oh, or is it a certain way
Yeah,
that
you have and you put the glottal stop in the middle.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Usually the glottal stop is something that you'll put in the middle of a word. And many dialects of British English do not use the glottal stop at all. They don't use it at all. And there's some people in American culture which pronounce the T's more in the middle of the word and don't use a glottal stop either. Okay. Thistle, bath. Call this the theta. Theta. Wrath. And this is a voiceless consonant. And then the eth is a voice consonant. I like to kind of pair them. I'll put one word and then another that are kind of similar. I'll kind of put them in the same area. The eth. These, father, there, thy, bathe. Here you go. The S hat check. Shove. And this is really, really tough. Look at all these things here. The SH, the CI, the SSI, the SU, and the TI all represent the sh. Racial, mission, sure, national. The Z hat check. Measure, azure, leisure, lesion, causality. The C hat check. Challenge, match, feature, constituent. So when you go back, you notice when you go back to the one right before there, notice the TU, feature, and then you'll see the TU again in constituent. So again, these are some unusual spelling patterns that we see here. Constituent. The J hat check. Nudge, jello, legend, George. R. Rear, tear, hairy, pride, large. Y. Use. Do you guys get the Y here? Do you hear that? Use. Even beautiful. 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 Few. Yearn. The flap. Letter. Butter. Atom. Bottle. Ready. Yeah, typically with the flap, you'll see it in like you have kind of two D's or a D in the middle of the word. I look at the flap kind of like a soft D. Now, if you say letter, if you say cuter, if you say little, then transcribe the word with a T. That's fine, right? A lot of people in the United States, they use a flap, right? Okay, what else here? So we're good there. So that's the basic introduction You want to make sure you're familiar with the symbols for the consonant sounds, both the easy ones and then the more difficult ones that I presented to you right now. Now for the hardest part. The vowel sound symbols. Maybe I forgot to do one more in the consonant sound. Wait a minute. I would just want to, there's only 3 of them here. Hold on. Let me see if I have it in here. Where is it, right? I forgot the last one here. Here, syllabic consonants.
Professor.
Syllabic consonants. Yeah, go ahead.
So there are different ways that TH is pronounced in different words, like thank you and them
Good, yes.
sound very different. Would that be transcribed differently?
Exactly, they would be. Well, in fact, syllabic M. Yeah, hold on. So to answer your question, you're talking about 2 separate sounds in English. You're talking about these 2, right? So if I said this, thigh, or I could say thy, as in maybe out of the Bible or something. So yeah, these are what might be a little confusing is they're produced exactly the same, right? The only difference is the state of the glottis. Remember we talked about there's kind of 3 basic characteristics of consonant sounds, right? These 2 sounds, they are produced exactly the same way. The only difference is the theta is a voiceless consonant and the eth is a voice consonant. That's the only difference we can say about those 2 sounds.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other than that, they're exactly the same. But the key is because of that one difference, if I say bath or if I say bathe, if I say teeth or if I say teeth, I'm actually changing those words from nouns to verbs when I change the sound at the end of those words. That one sound makes all that difference. Blossom, madam, bottom. So syllabic consonants, when we say syllabic consonant, it simply means there's a vowel and a consonant kind of attached, embedded together that you can't separate them. Syllabic N, glutton, button, chicken, ransom, kittenish. Now throw this one out. That's my mistake. That goes in the previous category. And kitten, kittenish. So this one doesn't fit. Syllabic L. All, brittle, mingle, simple, radical, all. Syllabic R. Matter, singer, lurch, herd, singer, So those are what we call the syllabic consonants. It means there's the vowel and the consonant together. Cannot be separated there. Okay, let's go to the vowels now. So make sure you get those study cards going, you get familiar with that, and you can see in module 2, we get into actual transcription practice. I'll spend some time talking about sound spelling inconsistencies, and then we'll do some practice distinguishing sounds in the beginning of the word, in the middle of the word, maybe at the end of the word. Okay, let's talk about the monophthongs, right? You can look at these, AKA simple vowels. IPA vowel sounds, monophthongs. Lowercase I. So like the little I, right? That's how you look at that one, the little I. Beat, he, receive, people, deep, lefty, capital I. And the capital I does not exist in Spanish. The I. And many languages don't have this particular sound. bit, consist, malignant, gem, busy, epsilon e, pet, restful, leverage, says, guest, ash, laugh, mat, angry, comrade, tally, brand, lowercase u, hoop, who, sewer, beauty, through, moon, capital U, should, put, butcher, and foot. Open O, wrong, bought, lure, claw, stalk, script A. Now, many of you probably don't use the open O, so if you just want to use the script A or the typewriter A, that's fine. Now, if you say quat, like they do in the Northeast area of the United States, if you say bought and quat like that, then you're using the open O, but a lot of people in California don't use that particular sound, not like they do in the Northeast. Mom, Sarge, on, father, hospital, wedge, buck, tough, another, oven, funny, schwa, blasphemy, amongst, harmony, famous, lowercase e, mate, blade, they, rain, break, age, lowercase o, goat, though, open, bow. Okay, now did you get this? If you're taking notes, you can't see it here. How many did I just name here? Anybody got the number? A lot of people think there's 5 vowels in English, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I just named 13 different sounds. You guys get that? And we still have to do the diphthongs, which adds 3 more to that. So this is the most difficult part. You probably really have 0 kind of what I call familiarization with this. So the vowels you have to spend a lot more time on to understand than you do the consonant sounds. The vowels really cause a lot of trouble. Okay, so let's take a look at diphthongs. So diphthongs, these are the opposite of simple vowels. They're complex vowels. So a diphthong typically involves, it has one sound that kind of glides into another sound. Ow, like brown, brown. So you start with one sound and it glides into another sound, but you can't separate the two. We call these diphthongs or complex vowels. And I'm only going to worry about 3. I'll try to keep it really simple with you guys. We're not going to get too complicated with this stuff. Let me go back to where we were here. Okay, let's go to the diphthongs. And you can look at the vowel and the consonant charts on your own, but it's very useful looking at the charts. Okay, let me see here. Let's go to, okay, here we go. So once you have the monothongs, you're in great shape. You're just about done. Let's talk about diphthongs. IPA vowel sounds, diphthongs, complex vowels. AY. So if you think about the AY, it's kind of like you have a ah and then an E. I to come together. Ah, E. I, I. Abide, I, mine, isle, island, bright, AW. So it's kind of like the ah, ow, ow, ow. Brown, clout, mound, tower, clown. OY, boy, oily, joyful, annoy, employee. Right? So those are, there's not many. You got 3. So you add 3 more to it. Now you have like 16, 15 or 16 different vowel sounds in the English language, in American English, what we're focusing on right now. So in conclusion for today's class, I'll recap what we talked about. And remember that in each module, there's some additional videos in there that you can watch to give you a little bit more information, especially about the vowel and the consonant sound charts. So you can understand, you remember we talked about the characteristics of consonant sounds, those 3 main areas. When you look at the consonant chart, it'll categorize all of the consonant sounds according to those 3 areas. When you look at the vowel sound chart, it'll categorize the vowel sounds according to those 4 characteristics that we talked about, right? So we have characteristics of vowel and consonant sounds, right? Then we have the basic symbols in the International Phonetics Alphabet that we use to describe the sounds of English, right? Because English has so many in other languages, there's a lot of spelling inconsistencies with things. So in linguistics, we need to have a system that's consistent. It can describe the sounds of any language. The IPA is not just used for English, it's used for Russian, German, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and all languages in the world, right? We use the IPA to describe the sounds of any language. What happens is when you move from English to Russian, for example, you'll have to take some of the symbols and not use them and add more to the list in order to describe the sounds of Russian. If you go into Spanish from English, right, you have to have an R, but you have to add another one called the R, because Spanish has 2 different sounds there. You have the R and the R. Those are considered separate sounds. That's how we have words like caro and carro, or we have perro and perro, right? So that's the whole point of the IPA, is to have a consistent way to describe the sounds of any language. And that's why we have it in the International Phonetics Alphabet. And I think that is it for today. Does anybody have any questions before we take the day off? And I recorded this and I will post it, but not as a Zoom video. I'm going to post this as a YouTube video. I'm going to get it produced by Zoom, download it, and then upload it back to YouTube. And then I won't have to worry about they're going to delete my videos again, that kind of a thing. So I learned the hard way to use Zoom and then use their videos and post them. They end up deleting them at some point down the line. Okay, any other questions before we finish for today?
No, thank you so much. Oh, go on.
All right. And remember, don't stress. Remember, you transcribe things how you say them, right? And there is variation. With 40 students in the class, we're not all going to pronounce everything exactly the same. And this is especially true with multisyllabic words. For example, electricity. Do you say electricity? Do you say electricity? You know, there could be different ways of saying words, especially when there's a lot of syllables in those words. Okay, go ahead. Anybody?
I have 2 questions. The first one is, are we going to learn how to transcribe the words in class soon, or
Yeah, we start beginning next week. We'll start with baby steps. We'll start identifying what we call initial, medial, and final consonant sounds, and we'll find the IPA symbols to describe those sounds. Once we've done that, then we'll go on to transcribing words.
Okay. My other question was, I was trying to do the flashcards on Tuesday, but I
Okay.
didn't know exactly how to make them, if I should make them memorizing the specific sounds, like for the first one, the easy ones, and naming all of them, or should I put the easy ones in the stack and learn how to pronounce them?
Yeah, what I would do is when you do the note cards, if you have the easy stack, just put the symbol in brackets on one side of the card, then put 2 or 3 examples of that word on the other side, especially put the unusual kind of spelling patterns in there. For example, with the K, you can put the X in there, like expect, and underline the X, maybe put below that, it's a K and an S. So
Oh,
because you know that key is a K, everybody knows that. But do you know that character is a K? But
Beatrice.
that's how I would do that. So you have the symbol on one side, you have some example words on the other side, and then you can just practice them that way.
okay.
Yeah, Beatrice, what I did to make my cards is I went through the videos that he posted second by second, and I put the
Okay.
symbol and then just put the exact example words that professor provided.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if I should do that or if they were just examples, because I didn't know if I had to memorize those specific sounds. By the
Well, those examples, they represent typical spelling patterns for those sounds. That's what those words are.
okay. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else? All right, remember office hours, no office hours tomorrow, right? But Monday through Thursday, I got a lot of office hours. Tuesday, Thursdays, 12 to 2:15, right before this class starts. Then Mondays and Wednesdays, 12 to 12:50 p.m. You can always pop in even for a minute, no problem. I'll be grading, doing stuff. Feel free to come in whenever you need to. All right, so between meeting like this, office hours, even emails, right? We can do this. We can get this thing done. All right.
Thank
All right.
you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Professor.
Have a good
Thank
week.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you got, Catherine, there? That's a cow, a picture of a cow in there. That's cool. All right.
See you, Professor.
See you later.